Podcasting between Leeds and London, Interesting Podcast is your indispensable guide to the more interesting things in life. Your hosts are about to take you on a journey through all that they find interesting, curious, helpful, and downright bizarre. And now, here are your hosts, Matt and Rick.
Hello, it's us, and yes, back by, just back to Season 2, Episode 2 of InterestingPodcast.com. You right, Matt?
Yeah, season, I like that, it's very American.
It is, isn't it? Season 7, Season 12.
Oh, we can release a box set.
And have trailers.
Oh my gosh, no.
Do you remember when they released the film, the Alan Bennett story, The Madness of King George III? Only for the American audience, they had to change it to The Madness of King George because the Americans would wonder why they hadn't seen the first two.
Oh, that reminds me. We should mention this a bit later on. Speaking of the third or episode 4, how about Lucasfilm being sold to Disney, which is a travesty. But we've got so much to pack in once again. We are going to try and keep this to half an hour as much as we possibly can, because last time we were meant to keep it to half an hour, and that was an hour or so.
Well, you do like to talk, don't you, Matt?
I do like to talk, you know. So
this week, we were going to bring you an interview with a good friend of ours, Dan, or a good friend of Matt's, Dan, about the latest Darren Brown show. We were going to reveal the inside secrets. We were going to talk about how it's filmed. We were going to talk about his recent success. But unfortunately, we can't, because ever since he's been in the Darren Brown program, he's gone missing. Isn't that right, Matt?
That's true. My friend Dan, who does the filming at Interesting Talks, he applied to be on a Darren Brown, the Scottish.
Is that the Scottish version?
Yeah, it's he applied just to be on Darren Brown, and he was selected. And his episode was on last night, and he was talking to me. He told me he was filming for Darren Brown. He really couldn't tell me what it was about, or much about it. I think we mentioned it in the last podcast. And we were going to have him on today for an interview, but since he was on TV, I haven't seen him. I've had a couple of texts, but, they can be faked. So we don't know where he is.
In actual fact, because the series is it's a 2-part series, he's not able to give us the juicy gossip that we deserve and require until it's fully aired. So we're going to put that back. We'll be talking to him all about Darren Brown next week. But you saw the show, didn't you, Matt?
I saw the show last night. Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, for people who are listening if you don't know who Darren Brown is a psychological illusionist. He's a bit sort of like, a bit kind of like David Blaine. He is a magician, and more recently he's been doing programs which aren't so much magic, but more like social experiments. And so he did one recently that was like the end of the world. He's done things like where you have to become a hero, like take over the flight of a plane, and he's been doing some quite, a range of different things. And they did one yesterday, and it was called Faithful Fear. And it's where they took
Fear and Faith, I think.
Fear and Faith, yeah. And they took like a lot of people, actually. It took it looked to be about 30, 40 people, split them up into different groups, and gave them all this new drug that was meant to eliminate fear or so.
And they showed them the drug in production, didn't they? They showed you the scientists that had developed it. They showed you all through the factories. They showed you the promotional videos about how the drug took effect on the body. They talked about its history, its development, the testing, and that this drug eliminated fear.
No, I when I was watching it, even when I'd heard about the program and what it was meant to be based on, I knew it was I knew it would be a placebo, because I knew they wouldn't take a drug like this on and do a drug trial on TV, because that just wouldn't make any kind of sense to do so. And so I knew, and because it's Darren Brown, I knew it'd be more to do with the mind as opposed to a drug. And so they actually revealed it was a placebo very early on, within like a few minutes within the show. But obviously the people who were involved in it didn't know. And so I knew it was going to be a placebo, but it was still interesting to watch. I thought it was okay. I think that I preferred Darren Brown when he's actually doing magic and he's actually doing things. You know what I mean? It was okay. Yeah, I found it. You know, it was good, obviously, because I knew Dan, who was in it, so it was good to see him on TV. But as a program, I didn't think it was massively entertaining. I liked it when it's like with David Blaine as well nowadays. Like, you know, I don't want to see him standing in a cage with electricity. I want to see him doing magic. Do you know what I mean? I prefer to see them doing those kind of things as opposed to these kind of social experiments. But I thought it was all right. I just thought it wasn't the strongest program.
What was really interesting is that the name of the drug that they give him, which was like Ruamidin or something like that, was actually an anagram of your mind. And I think the one thing Darren Brown is he's kind of quite stylized, and it is reasonably predictable what he does, and that's okay because it's still really interesting. But this was clear from the start what it was, and I don't know. It'd be really interesting to speak to Dan about you're appearing on a Darren Brown show, and kind of what level of cynicism or skepticism do you have before you appear on that show, and you know, would that not mean that you would question everything more and not less as you were on there?
He had to do a video diary every day as well, which I think they showed about a second of, and he had to go for so much filming. But he had to sign so many disclosure forms and so much secrecy around it. I don't think. Well, it wasn't really that secret, to be fair. You know, it wasn't like massively revealing huge secrets, because as soon as the thing started, they're saying there's a placebo. So I thought it was all right. I thought it was quite good. I thought it was interesting. But again, I knew it was a very sort of predictable show. Nothing really happened I was massively surprised about. You know, they said they were going to do some placebo stuff. The placebo worked.
So what do you think? What do you think Darren Brown should do next then? What is it that he could do that you'd like to see?
Well, the thing is, I don't think he can go back to doing street magic kind of stuff because he's too popular, he's too famous.
Yeah.
So I watched Svengali the other day. I don't know if you've seen that with the stage show. I watched it on Channel 4. That was entertaining.
I saw a bit of that. I did see some of that.
I don't know what's him to do next. I don't know. I don't know, because I used to really like Tricks of the Mind.
Yeah.
And that Trick or Treat program was quite good. In fact, all of his stuff's good. All of his stuff's entertaining. I just some of the specials, some of the hour-long things. Now, the next week is about God and people's faith in God, so that'll be interesting. It's how you can sort of use people's faith and understand religious beliefs. So I think that'll be genuinely quite an interesting thing. But I don't know.
We have said this before as well, but he's I've always been quite a fan of Darren Brown, because what I really like is the way he fuses just enough scientific basis with kind of magic, with psychology, and then puts it all together in a show. And I think the way his blend is brilliant, but he does it really well, and he writes really well as well. His books are actually hilarious, but also quite entertaining, and I just think he's a really good product. And I think he must have, he came from doing all the stage stuff that was really good and being unknown, and all the dinner parties he did, where he guessed people's pin numbers and all of that, to now being, putting on quite big spectacles. And it's kind of, where next? What
See,
next?
I do quite like all the stuff that he used to do, like guessing the pin numbers and stuff like that. But there has been so much else happening this week as well. So we have obviously Darren Brown. So a bit of kind of strange news. Our Olympic champion and the winner of Tour de France, Bradley Wiggins, got knocked over by a white van the other day. And I believe he's dislocated a finger and broken a rib. But could you imagine being the driver of that van? Realising you've knocked over a cyclist is one thing. Then when they take their helmet off and you've realised you've knocked over Bradley Wiggins.
Well, somebody has. We only discussed this very briefly before this segment, so it's not a news story I know massive about. But somebody's come forward, haven't they? A lady has come forward and attended a voluntary interview.
Yeah.
But yes, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you, that it was?
Yeah,
Bradley
no,
Wiggins.
she kind of came forward quite. She was in the paper the other day, and do you know what? I don't think it's going to be really kind of her fault all that much. You know, it's just kind of one of those things that happened. And I was talking to my sister and a few other people about this last night about, well, we're going to have to highlight cycling safety. Nothing's going to change. The thing is, if you're on a bike, you're more vulnerable than if you're in a van.
Yeah, where was it? He was knocked off actually.
It was just coming outside of a petrol station.
Where?
England.
Okay, it wasn't London, was it?
I don't know. I don't think it was London. No,
I'm surprised more people don't die on bikes in London.
As you say, cycling is a good way to get dead.
Yeah.
It is. Cycling is a dangerous thing, and no matter how many times you tell people to be cautious when looking and stuff, it's not going to change. You know, I used to cycle a lot, and you know what? If I was near vans and cars and stuff, I would always give them a lot of distance. And I see people in London, and it's like, they're absolutely insane getting close. In fact, a real quick side thing, talk about cycling, you know the Boris bikes?
Yeah.
Well, they've become quite unpopular as of late. And so the council have had a fantastic idea. They need to make more money out of these bikes.
Right.
So they're going to do that by doubling the price of how much it costs to use them.
Good.
That's some smart thinking. Apparently, they need to hire it 10 times. You know, there has to be 10 hires a day to make it, you know, to break even. And some of them are just 2 hires per day.
Silly, isn't it? But that's economics, you know. If you put up the price, you need to make sure that supply meets demand. And if there is an over demand and an undersupply, then an oversupply and an under demand, then you play with the price, don't you?
Well, if the roads were safer, it'd be different. Just a few more things.
My favourite news story of recent times, it was a couple of weeks ago, but it was Amir Khan and his brother, also a professional fighter. A gang of 6 people in Birmingham tried to run his car off the road in order to rob it. And one of them decided it might be a good idea to give Amir Khan a little slap, who promptly knocked him out cold. And then the other 6 gang members kind of jumped in onto Amir Khan, and one by one they took them out very, 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 very well, apparently.
I would love to have seen footage of that. That must have been something like from a film. Could you imagine 6 people jumping onto a professional boxer and his brother, who's a professional fighter, and just being knocked out one by one? That would have been the YouTube clip of the year.
Have you seen the YouTube clip, though, of the guys that, I think they're soldiers, and they're all on a night out, and they're dressed as trannies, and they're there with their handbags, and they're walking down the road, and they get a bit of shit from one of these guys, and he escalates a little bit, and then these guys just end up getting absolutely battered by this group of trannies with their handbags. It is a fantastic video.
I don't think there's anything worse than being beaten up by a bloke in a dress. You know, that must be the worst. Did you see that space dive by
Felix Baumgartner?
Baumgartner. Did you watch it?
I didn't. No, I saw a summary clip afterwards. I YouTubed it, but I didn't watch it at the time.
See, how did he know where to fall? Because it was many, many miles up, wasn't it? I think was it 22 miles up or
something like that? I mean, he cancelled the first one, didn't he? Because it was a little bit windy.
Bit windy.
Wimp.
I wouldn't have cancelled. Just saying. I wouldn't have cancelled it. But you know, that's the kind of guy I am. But no, he and did you see how he landed? He landed like he just jumped off like a 10-foot, you know, sort of window ledge. He just sort of landed and like walked. I wouldn't
underplay how amazing that is as an achievement, and kind of the maths and the understanding that went into planning that. But compared to something like sending something, putting people on the moon, sending people up into space, getting them there, and then getting them safely back. You know, this is why we have physicists, Matt. They work things like this out, like where they're going to land, and they draw a little plan, and it's all very clever.
I don't really understand the point of it, though.
At the point of what?
Doing it.
Right. Because it's there. Because you can.
I understand that. I understand going to the moon. I understand doing... But it was entertaining to watch, but you know, because there's millions of people watching all around the world, and as soon as his parachute deployed, 1 million or so people turned off. It shows you like people are watching. Yeah. Oh, he's all right. That's just, could you imagine that? Just like little one bit of wind or a little bit of change in trajectory, he would have landed miles further away than what he was meant to.
He's also recently been charged with assault, hasn't he?
He has. Didn't he punch a lorry driver?
I don't know what he did. But yeah. Maybe he got on his head just a little bit.
And that is the news this week.
Also, this week, I succeeded in getting Steph to the cinema to see Skyfall. Now, this is a monumental achievement for me, because I normally get dragged to the cinema to see utter shit. Case in point, I already have a date in the diary to go to the cinema to see Twilight. But on this occasion... Oh, no, I know. What can I do? Help me. I need help. I need an excuse.
Well, just don't go.
If only things were that easy.
Why does Steph want to go and see Twilight?
Because, I don't know, because she likes it or not. I don't even know. But anyway, so I managed to get Steph to come to the cinema to see Skyfall. You've also seen it.
I have.
What did you think?
I thought the beginning was great. I thought... The thing is with Skyfall, it promised an awful lot, and... the reviews I'd read before it, were great reviews, and I went along to see it. And, I just found it really quite slow. I think it was about half an hour too long, and it was I don't want to see Bond as he's sort of, like, beaten up and... vulnerable, and to me, the last sort of half an hour, it all went a little bit Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
When they went to Skyfall, and he was there dressed in, like, farmer's clothing, and it was just all a little bit, I don't know, and to say, because, the villain didn't come into it until gone halfway through.
Yeah, I don't know, I thought it was really good. I did. I thought it was quick. I thought it was energetic. I think there was a danger with some of the previous Bond films where they're taking things a little bit too far and kind of invisible cars and all of this stuff. And I really like the fact that they've gone back to kind of simplicity in terms of story. The plot wasn't overly complex, but that was kind of all right because it doesn't have to be, and it's about characters. I thought the villain was great. I love the fact that we got a gay Bond villain. I thought that was brilliant. And I thought some of the chase scenes were very good. There is one thing that really riled me, though, and it still riles me, and that is the absolute shameless, almost gratuitous product placement all the way through. The bit where Bond wakes up in bed and he's drinking a Heineken. Bugger.
Yeah. Well, there was a few Heinekens, weren't there?
Bond was going to drink beer. He would drink something that tasted slightly less like piss.
He wouldn't drink Heineken. It's just. I don't like stupid advertising. Like when you get like all these massive sports stars like advertising like crap watches, like Swatch or something really like did wear that. And so
you saw this all the way through, like in the first chase sequence where the Beatles fell off the car, and it's, what is that? They're VW Beatles. And you noticed all the laptops were Vaio, like Sony laptops, and all the computers were Sony, and it's like, is that a Rolex? No, it's an Amiga. It was too much. I don't think, the Bond is very much part of British culture. The books have been, the films have been. This is one of our most successful franchises.
Surely they don't need all the...
Exactly, and this kind of was an over-Americanization. To be honest, I was really disappointed with that. I was really disappointed they sold out. I could almost forgive the 10 minutes to forced adverts beforehand. I could almost see through that because, fine, they've got to advertise and they've got to make money, but to slip it into the film hurt me.
Yeah, I think because it was sort of quite obvious, the branding and stuff. It's... But, product placement has become part and parcel of normal TV as well. I believe it's on Coronation Street. You know, they're bringing product placement, and then you can actually interact with your TV. I don't know, I don't have one, but if you're watching something Coronation Street and you like something, you can click on your TV and it takes you to where you buy this thing.
Is that
which
right?
to me sounds very much like the Truman Show.
Well, you know, product placement used to be, it used to be illegal. It used to not be allowed, and it's only very recently that it's started to be allowed. But I don't know.
I'll cut that out.
Who is the surprise? Who is the surprise guest on Interesting Podcast? You heard it here first.
That's well, from my professional recording studio of my lounge. That was just my flatmate saying she was going out. So,
lovely.
So people think, well, it's all right for you guys. You know, you get to record your podcasts in a beach hut in Hawaii. So, no, it's actually in Muswell Hill, which is very nice. But no, I do think the product placement, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as iRobot, where it was like just a long advert for stuff you didn't want to buy. But I did find it. I don't think it detracted from the story that much. I don't think it was actually as bad as I was expecting, to be honest. I think the Heineken. I think it was more the fact that he was drinking a beer kind of upset me.
I think I really, really liked the film. Although, I mean, speaking to people afterwards, and certainly on Facebook, there were a lot of people that were kind of like, you know, they were kind of shocked about the film and saying, oh, we shouldn't watch Bond because it's sexist. Well, yeah, it kind of is, but it's kind of all right because it's old and it's stories, and we know it's just a story, and it's a genre in itself, and it's like, Steph, when we left the cinema, she was like, yeah, but I was a bit disappointed with the ending because he survived. And it's like, well, you know, we kind of knew that was coming.
Bless. Well, with the, you know, there was a couple of Bond girls in it this time, weren't there? But I think they were in it for a total of a minute. And I think it was a bit of a shame, because the Bond girls used to be, ooh, Bond girl. It's like, I don't even know what the Bond girl was called this time. I don't know who she is, where she's from, what she does. I know she was quite fit, and I know she got shot, you know, because she had a shot glass on her head. But I just think it's, because, you know, the beginning of the Bond films, I thought that was brilliant, by the way, the actual title sequence is. It is a very seductive thing. And there wasn't really any kind of sort of naughtiness in that sense. I don't think there was, I don't remember, there may have been a little bit, but there wasn't much at all. And I think there should have been, oh, well, no, that Bond girl is the new Miss Moneypenny.
Yeah, well, the Bond girl who was an agent that became a secretary at the end.
Yeah. Who's not really, she was a nice girl, don't get me wrong, but she's not a Bond girl in the sense of, you know, the sexuality, the femininity. She, you know, she's a bit, I don't know, I think one of my friends said it best, that this Bond film was just like watching a feature-length episode of Spooks.
Oh, that's desperately unfair. I thought, no, it was much better than that. It was very, very good. I was really impressed. And what I realise is it's the first time I've ever seen a Bond film at the cinema. I don't think I've ever seen a Bond film at the cinema before.
I'll tell you what really did annoy me, okay? I went on a Friday night, or something, a Thursday or Friday night, I think it was a Thursday night. It was busy, anyway. It was the first week it was out, or the second week, you know, so it was absolutely jam-packed, we had to book in advance. 3 or 4 rows down, and to my right, a couple who were just using their phones throughout the film. They left about halfway through, but all the way through the film, they were using their phone. Now, they did put their screen setting on low, but that's not using it. You know what I mean? And I think that, I know I was in the cinema the other day. I lived next door to a cinema, and I went in to go and see. I went to go see Taken 2. I felt like I'd been taken to the cleaners, and that was just the first film.
Good joke, well rehearsed.
I know, I've used that before. The first film was quite good. The second film, it was just daft. And I was sat next to this, you wouldn't expect to see her there. She was like a 50-year-old lady by herself. You know, she may just fancy Liam Neeson. And she was using her phone, right? There was only about 20 people in the cinema, and a bloke next to me ordered a hot dog. And they brought it in just before the film starts, and I had to pass this hot dog down. I was like, Oh my god! And honestly,
You
it's
should
one
have
of the,
taken a bite of it before you passed it down.
have you seen it? I'm not going to eat anything that's been cooked on a rolly thing for a...
I do
No.
love the allure of cinema hot dogs. That whole, no. I think you're right though, because you know that I help out at one of the theatres in Leeds, and part of what we do is people using phones, and you realise that over the past kind of 10 or 15 years, it's okay in things like theatres and cinemas to have your light on, and people don't see how that's annoying and frustrating, and it is, and it's deeply annoying, people that do that should be shot.
Yeah, it's like at the beginning of interesting talks, I say, please don't turn your phone to silent, turn your phone off.
Yes.
Just please turn your phone off, you do not need to use your phone. And I've asked people to leave before. So look, I understand, look, if you need to send text and everything, you can do that anywhere apart from in here. So please don't use it in here. Honestly, I just find that people using their phones in the cinema or, where it's a dark environment where concentration is required, I find it really, really annoying. And people should have their phone. I think you should have a license to have a phone.
I think you should have a license to go out in public. One thing I can't stand is when you're walking along and somebody that's walking in front of you just stops. Anyway, hallelujah. Matt, I would like to talk to you about the book you're reading at the moment.
I'm reading a book by an author who I've met. And I can't pronounce her name properly. It's Nicole Dayden, I believe. She's a woman from America, from San Francisco. And she wrote a book called Slow Sex. And it's the art and craft of the female orgasm, I believe it's called. Mm-hmm. And I've been in contact with this company. The company's called One Taste. I know. And because I run interesting talks where we have speakers come and speak on a variety of subjects. Well, this company got in contact with me to possibly try and do a talk at some point in the future. And I was like, okay, right, let's see what we can arrange. And so I couldn't put them on straight away because, we had bookings in and stuff. But they said, look, Nicole's going to be doing a talk in Angel. Why don't you come down and check it out? So I went down to Angel's, just a place in London. So I went down there. They had to change the venue last minute because they had a feeling they were going to get more people than the other venue could hold. And I tell you what, all right, on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night in London, and it wasn't a great evening. It was quite cold. It was kind of rainy. I turned the corner and walked down this side street, and I thought, well, this can't be it, because there's a huge queue of people, and the talk was meant to start in 10 minutes after I sort of got there, and I realised it was like a queue for a gig. And I went to the front and I said, oh, hi, the organisers are actually expecting me. They said, well, you're going to have to queue. So I got into the queue, and the queue just kept growing and growing and growing. And I finally got inside. I actually knew a lot of people there anyway because of, my work. And I met the organiser, and, we had a quick chat, but obviously she was kind of quite busy. I've never seen a gig, a talk quite like it. It was in this kind of slightly odd venue in Angel. It was quite sort of arty. There was like graffiti on the wall, and the bar was like a caravan and weird shit like that. But
so other than your professional jealousy that her events are significantly more successful and well attended than yours, and the potential that you've maybe found a larger venue with which to set your sights on, and the fact that you've now realised that sex sells, other than those things, what was her talk actually about? What's this book Slow Sex about?
Well, basically, she's found this technique called orgasmic meditation. And it's a practice where the gentleman or a woman does a particular type of massage or stroking to the lady for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And that makes the world a better place, apparently. So it's very much about slowing everything down and focusing on giving the woman as much pleasure as possible by not rushing, by focusing, by doing the same movement, basically. And so I'm reading this book. Now, I'm quite open-minded and liberal and, I tell you what, I get some funny looks on the tube. I'm reading this book called Slow Sex. There's two kind of naked people, a bit blurry, or sort of cuddling each other and what have you. I've had some funny looks.
Now, I don't want to go out on a limb here, Matt, but I guess you're the kind of person that's quite used to funny looks on the tube.
That is true.
And to be perfectly honest, you would probably read a book called Slow Sex on the tube, even if you weren't actually reading it, to watch what other people's expressions were. Yeah, I'm liberal. Yeah, I'm liberal. Basically what it is for you is a gigantic shout out of "I'm a great lover. If only you'll let me in."
It has got me some funny looks. I'd say it's a very good book. It's very well written. And what sort of, she makes a lot of sort of contrast between the sex that people have and the sex that people could have. Is very much like people's diets, the food that we eat, the processed, quick, ready meals, as opposed to natural, organic food that you kind of take preparation and care over. And it's actually a very interesting book. I haven't read it all yet, but once I do finish it, I'll do a complete review of it. But no, it's good. It's basically just sort of getting rid of all of the, becoming outcome dependent and just enjoying it, but slowing everything down and actually taking some time just to really sort of enjoy it.
But I think, it sounds from what you've said, is this basically saying the world will become a better place by focusing on only one person in a relationship?
No, it's not by focusing on only one person. It's about by focusing on giving the woman more pleasure.
But that's okay. That's okay for gay girls because they've got each other. They can take it in turns. What if you're a man? We've always got to focus on giving the woman more pleasure. Yeah. So I don't get any pleasure. Oh.
No, Rick. The pleasure is in the giving of pleasure, Rick. Rick, I've got this book you should read.
Yeah.
It's called Slow Sex.
So the pleasure's in the giving of pleasure.
It's like,
if the pleasure's in the giving of pleasure, surely women should get pleasure from giving pleasure.
They do. But the thing is, usually, men want to sort of receive more than they give, and they don't know how to give properly. So this is why girls like girls, because girls know what girls like. That makes sense. So
I don't think it's necessarily true, though, that maybe this is taking Interesting Podcast down another road, and that there should become an adult Interesting Podcast. But I don't know. I think
I'm not going to do the children's show anymore.
I'm always sceptical of anything. This is like I do believe in equality, and I do believe men and women and people are equal regardless of sexuality, race, creed, sex, or whatever. But I always struggle with things that are about. There are a lot of ideas that are about let's make everything better by focusing on women. And this is, I kind of struggle with this, and I'm going to get lynched for saying this, but that feminism is kind of the belief that you can make two things equal by focusing on just one of them. And I don't think you ever can. I think there always has to be, a focus on both parties. So I am instantly sceptical of something that focuses on just one party out of two, and would love to be proved wrong. Send me your copy when you're finished.
I'll send you the copy. She's done a talk on TED.com as well. But, the actual talk that she did, she goes, right, I'm going to answer 10 questions. I'll take 10 questions from the audience, and then I'm going to construct a talk out of it. It was really good, actually. I was actually very impressed on her speaking style, the way that she engaged people. Because I'm not really into, tree-huggy hippie shit. But it's, some of it was a little bit woo. But do you know what? I actually found it really interesting. I've spoken to quite a few female friends about it, and they were like, well, of course this is what, girls like. And so it has kind of changed my attitude quite a lot about sex and the focus that we put on it. No, I'm actually learning quite a lot about it.
No, and actually, to put some perspective on it, I think what we need to do is read the book and talk about it to some people.
Yeah.
I think it is very easy for me to sit.
Let's get Nicole on. Right, we'll invite her on. Nicole, this is your official invitation to Interesting Podcast, and if you don't come on it, well,
then we're going to go off and have quick sex.
Yes, we are.
Well, so we're almost at the end of our Season 2, Episode 2 episode of Interesting Podcast. We said we'd keep it to half an hour. Once again, we've failed. It will be slightly over. But hey-ho, it's quality content, and we all love it. So Matt, what's coming up?
Well, at Interesting Talks, we have actually achieved a milestone, or reached a milestone. We have arrived at and smashed through the 2,000 members mark. We now have 2,066 members, which is pretty damn good. To be fair, it's getting a fair old size, and I've got a few booked in for the rest of the year. Most of them are actually sold out, but in fact they're all sold out apart from one at the moment now. But we had some really interesting stuff. We had a guy called Adam Eason, who's a hypnotist. He came down this week.
He's the guy that's into self-hypnosis, isn't he? Yeah.
He's into self-hypnosis. He does hypnosis training course and stuff, but he teaches self-hypnosis, and it was a really clear model. I really enjoyed it. And what he did at the end, to show the power of the mind and self-hypnosis, he got 4 people. He usually does it with one, but it was so popular that 4 people wanted to do it. They hypnotized themselves, and he then got a sterile surgical needle and put it through the piece of skin between the thumb and the index finger. One guy that wouldn't go through that, so they actually used the back of his hand. They pinched his hand, and it went through the back of his hand. And that's without any anaesthetic. Though obviously it was very cleanly done with antiseptic wipes and stuff like that, but no anaesthetic. So that was really interesting to watch. We're going to have some pictures of that. We've got some HD video of that being done as well. So that was an interesting one. And then we've got some quite interesting talks coming up at the moment. We have a girl called Nadine Horn. And Nadine is one of these people who, just by reading her Facebook, you become tired by looking at the things that she does. She does like Iron Man. She does like 1,000 kilometers cycling. You know, she's a real good adventurer. But she has like a really amazing life doing it, and she blogs about it, she writes about it, she makes videos, and she's doing a talk called 7 Steps to Living an Adventurous Lifestyle, and she's written a book about this, and it's basically her 7 steps of how she takes on a challenge and gets things going. So that's going to be really, really fascinating about how to. You don't have to go and obviously do these crazy challenges, but it's about how to adopt a bit of a mentality to go and achieve these things that you want to do. Now, that might be how to get a different job. It might be how to go and lose weight. Basically how to make it a change in your life. We're going to have a very interesting talk called Punk Talk, and that's the practical reply to The Secret by Andy Gibney. Now, Andy Gibney is a championship stick fighter.
A stick fighter?
Fights with sticks. A stick fighter, and he's a champion, world champion, and he has a business. He has a gym which nearly went under, but his self-determination and belief and his hard work saved his business, and it's now very successful. And I'm sure you've heard about The Secret and the Law of Attraction and all that sort of stuff. Well, this talk is the practical reply to it and how to get out of fantasy land of thinking things are going to be fine and actually making changes in your life and basically getting into the real world. And so, yeah, we've got all those coming up. Then they are all in November. Then we have a couple which are just completely sold out and have been for a long time, which is about networking and social circles. We have got a few tickets left, the last 10 tickets for Eat Yourself Healthy, The Myths and Lies Debunked, and that's by a guy called Rick Miller. And he actually writes for Muscles and Fitness magazines. He's a dietitian. So there's some tickets left for that one in December. There's a few tickets left for Punk Talk. Apart from that, everything else is sold out, and Interesting Talks are doing very well. We're actually going to be... I'm uploading all of the talks onto a YouTube channel, which is Interesting Talks London, spelled LDN. You're going to have to come down, Rick, and come to some more Interesting Talks events.
Well, I mean, I always enjoy attending, but it's great to know that they're available to watch us videos. And I can't, we have a geographical divide, and, it's not always easy for me to get there. But if you do live in London, the talks are really, really informal. You meet some great people. There's always an opportunity to go and have a pint afterwards. And genuinely, they're really interesting to learn things that maybe you know nothing about. And the fact that the subject area might seem, kind of not something that you'd ever read about or talk about before shouldn't put you off, because it's really, really interesting being in a room and learning things about, self-hypnosis or diet. And I love the variety you put together.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm really, really pleased for you to see it growing from strength to strength. And I'd love to see where you're going to move it now, whether it goes to bigger venues, whether you go more frequently. You're selling out. There's clearly a demand. People clearly want this. And I think it's great what you've put together.
Well, yeah, like the last event we had, we have to limit it at 60 people. That's because of the venue. Keep going on at me. We can't have more than 60, Matt. You know this. And I'm like, can we have 10 more chairs? No, you have to limit it. And so
okay, just 5 then.
No, that's what I said. I said, can I have 10 chairs? No, can I have 5? But no, it's because of regulations. I can't. But the last event, we had 60 people book. We had 50 people on the waiting list. Similar, we had one about body language the week before, then we had one about negotiation before that, one about rational intuition. We had one about how your body talks and how your body thinks. Every talk, we've had 25 consecutive sold-out events. And for every event, there's been a waiting list of 10 people upwards. I think the biggest waiting list we had was like 65 people. So, yeah, there is a demand for it, and obviously people are enjoying it. So we're going to have to see where we're going in the future. We're growing day by day. We've literally had 4 people join just during the podcast recording. So my whole thing is keep producing quality content and just keep pushing it out there, and let's see what happens. If it all falls apart tomorrow, it's been a great time. I don't think it will fall apart, but I don't know. I'm putting more and more time and effort into it, and it seems to keep growing. So I think that hopefully one day we're going to get like some good celebrities down, get some more people involved, some bigger names involved in it, and I think the value really is in the list and the reputation. So we can look at different venues, but really just keep growing it, keep putting the content out there. All the videos are going up, about 12 talks. All the audio and high quality audio are going up. And so, yeah, please share it. Please pass it around. You don't need to sign up for anything. It's all free. Don't need to pay to download it. Just share it amongst people because there's some quality content there.
Good work. And I think, to end on a high, that brings us to the end of our interesting podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. I've been Rick. You can get in touch with us. I think by now you know all of the means you can get in touch. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter. We've both got emails. And we would love to hear what you've got to say. So thanks very much for listening. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thanks for listening to Interesting Podcast with Matt and Rick. Obviously, any views expressed herein are those of the hosts and no one else. If you like what you just heard, please share the website www.interestingpodcast.com with your friends, family and colleagues. You can subscribe, listen to the archive podcast and get in touch. Do you have something interesting to say? We'd love to hear from you. Get in touch. Tweet us at InterestingPod and like our Interesting Podcast Facebook page. Until next time.